Welcome to People, Places, and Things, a travel podcast that brings you captivating stories, fascinating people, and unforgettable destinations from all around the world. I'm your host, Ryan Lowe. Let's dive into this journey together. On today's episode, we have Matt Costa from Massachusetts. Welcome, Matt.
Hey there, Ryan.
Hey, man. So it's great to have you on. I really want to jump into your past and talk about your upbringing in Mass and what inspired you to travel initially.
Yeah, it's really nice to talk to you, Ryan. Been a while. I lived most of my life out in Massachusetts. Originally from California. Didn't really get a chance to travel a lot, but was always obsessed with history and kind of focused on that in school in general. And once I turned 18, I started doing and having a car. I ended up just taking some smaller road trips, driving out to Chicago, driving out to Buffalo, just to see Niagara Falls. And from there, I kind of realized how much I actually liked road tripping a lot. And I started trying to travel with friends. And a lot of my friends in Massachusetts were kind of more, let's say 20 minutes was far travel for them. And ended up convincing a buddy of mine, I think I was 19, to go out to Egypt. And about 2 weeks before, he he ended up ditching. So I ended up, that's how I got into solo traveling, really. I ended up going to Egypt in the middle of the Arab Spring. And my first day of solo travel there was watching the Muslim Brotherhood march into Tahrir Square. So I think after that I kind of got hooked on traveling. And but it's funny. Yeah, my family wasn't big travel people. Not really ever going too far. I think the furthest we ever went as a family was Dominican. But yeah.
That's awesome, man. And just those little small trips create a spark. And your first international was Egypt, and that's a crazy time to be in Egypt when that was all going on, the Arab Spring. Talk about that experience and what that was like, and your first impressions of the pyramids.
Yeah, sure. So Egypt was wild. I would love to go back there again just to kind of see how it is when a lot of tourists are there. But my first experience, I landed, I remember I showed up at this hotel and the guy working there was like, there's a curfew tonight. No one's allowed out. And naturally, I immediately decided that the first thing I wanted to do was leave the hotel during the curfew. So I ended up talking to this British guy there, and we ended up sneaking out and heading out to where the protests were, which were less than a kilometer away from our hotel. And we pretty much sat there, drank tea, and watched about 10,000 Muslim Brotherhood march into Tahrir Square. And you could visibly, I mean, probably not, but it felt like the buildings were shaking from the chanting. And there's campsites in the middle of the square, and it was a really interesting experience. It was the first time I felt like I was living through a historical event of any substance, and it was just really, I felt like I was very much in the moment. And I hold that memory dear to me to this day and always will. And from that moment on, it was really just hooked on figuring things out without really having a plan. Um, you know, I think the next day I ended up doing the normal, going to Giza and seeing the pyramids, which, I mean, it's one of those places where it's really, really hard to describe, or like going to the Grand Canyon and trying to talk about the scope of what you see. Um, I mean, just absolutely fantastic. And then I had a great experience because there wasn't a lot of tourists there at all, and felt like I kind of had that plateau to myself in a way. But yeah, no, that Egypt was that whole experience down there was great. Ended up going all the way to Aswan, made some friends with some guys my age who were local. Ended up going down to Abu Simbel with them, and yeah, it was as good of a first solo travel experience as I think I could have had for me to get hooked.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. That's an interesting experience, and then also you still going after your friend bailed. That speaks on, your desire to travel and make it happen, and that's what a lot of people miss out on because people are gonna be flaky, people are gonna, bail on you and stuff, but you just gotta make it happen at the end of the day. You just gotta go out there and do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't have any money. I ended up doing something pretty irresponsible. I had a car, sold it, used that money to do this trip. I came back with not without having a car, but I definitely don't even regret that decision. Money comes and goes, but having those moments in time that you can actually go out and do stuff that those don't come around that often. So yeah, I wouldn't change anything about that.
No, I agree. That sounds like an awesome trip, and, um, that speaks on, like, don't wait till you're older to travel, just make it a point to do it now and when you have the time and energy and youth, um, and that's important. But we met in 2016 in Yellowstone National Park, working at the Lake Hotel. The place is magical. I talk about it all the time. Tell me what brought you out to Wyoming.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like you said, we met out there 2016. I think we were both trying to look for an escape. I wasn't really happy with things at home and everything else. I had just kind of been in college and working 60 hours a week while trying to sleep in my car to make it to class and all this stuff. And I ended up showing up I remember I was working overnights at a hotel just for extra cash, and I had my car all packed up. I had decided maybe a month back previous to this that I was done, and I was going to get out of Dodge, and I just needed a new change of pace. I needed to meet interesting people that had um, similar interests and love of nature and all that. And I guess that's what kind of inspired me to even apply to begin with. But yeah, no, I remember I showed up at my job and they're like, "Are you going to be showing up later?" And I was like, "Actually, I quit. I'm sorry." So I ended up having my car all packed up, and yeah, so for about a month, I ended up just driving to different national parks, starting on the East Coast and making my way out west and ended up in Wyoming, meeting you at Lake Yellowstone Hotel. To this day, I still haven't worked in a kitchen since then, and I think it's going to stay that way for me. But yeah, no, absolutely loved Yellowstone, and it's definitely a special place in my heart. Definitely, I think the Egypt trip was me getting into solo traveling. I think Yellowstone was more of me having the courage to get out there and do something more long term with travel and meeting people.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear because it was a very pivotal point in my life as well, as far as that goes. Um, I got into international travel after that summer. Um, but after that summer, we didn't see each other for a few years. You and Trisha were together, and we later on did the Mongol Rally in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
You had the idea and pitched it to me a year prior, I think in 2018, and I watched some of the videos and watched some of the teams that had done it previously.
Yep.
And it was just that it was so cool because I wanted to do some kind of cross continent overland trip, and it was just amazing to see all these teams and the stoke and like the weirdness and the openness. And when you pitched it to me, like literally, I think that day I was like, "Yeah, I'm in." Like, and yeah, and we started planning immediately, man. And I mean, it took us a good year to plan all of that because there was a lot of logistics involved, a lot of material things we had to get, visas, what have you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
we ended up preparing everything, and in May of 2019, you two picked me up in Montana, and then we road tripped right outside of Boston, where you're from, in New Bedford, where you grew up. Um,
Yep.
Staying with your family for a couple weeks, preparing some more things. The visa process was weird because it took us all of them were easy except for the Russia visa, the
Yeah,
multi-entry
I knew
Russia
that was going
visa.
to come up.
And dude, like the road trip to across the US was super fun, but the most stressful part was getting that Russia visa, especially for me because I thought it was a good idea to leave it in the hands of the old system, and they just switched to a new system, which you and Trisha went for, and y'all got y'all's passports and in the mail, and everything was good. But mine remained in Washington D.C. Talk about that a little bit.
Oh, I would absolutely love to because I have fond memories of that. So I remember I believe we cut across the United States. We hit Chicago, then we went to DC to check on our visas, I believe, right? And I know our ours weren't done, and then we ended up getting them, I believe. But then they told you that it was going to be a little bit longer. So I remember we had to drive from Boston to DC and then back within like we had something like a 30-hour window before your flight.
Yep.
I believe just having to drive all that way just to stop at an embassy just to turn around and go back. Just it was just you and me. And yeah, I just remember that stress of trying to make that work because at the time we both didn't have a lot of money. So like us trying to make this trip work over a year was a lot of sacrifices that we had to make. So being able to cancel out on a flight right off the bat wasn't really feasible for both of us. So I do remember I was stressed for you because, and then like stressed for as the group too, because we're supposed to do all this together, and to potentially not be able to hit the finish line really was yeah, that was quite scary, but I definitely look at it fondly at the of our tenacity to kind of force the Russians to pretty much give us our visas that we rightfully deserve.
Yeah, because they're expensive too, man. And yeah, dude, that was an awesome way, and like we were determined to get that visa, and there was no taking no for an answer. And I remember in Rhode Island when we were coming back, we were so haggard from driving that the cop pulled us over in Rhode Island
Oh yeah,
and then pulled us out of the car because he thought like we were under the influence or something. We were just tired, and we were just we were sober as a judge, man. And I remember him talking to us, and he was like, "What are y'all doing?" We were telling him the story, and he was just like dumbstruck. Didn't believe us at all. And
well, I mean, why would you? But
and
it's such a wild story, though. Like,
and we showed him the passport with the visas in it, and he's like, "All right, yeah, that checked out."
yeah. Imagine we came back without the visas, though.
Who knows, you know?
Right?
Um,
It's funny.
Now after that, we stay with your family, uh,
Yep.
which awesome people. Your mother, stepdad, awesome people. Um, then we were off, man, as Team Yellowstoners. We're we
Team
our team
Yellowstone.
Team Yellowstone. I'll never forget that. And then, you know, I traveled around Ireland a bit, and then you two traveled around Morocco a bit, around Marrakesh, and then we met in London. And I remember picking you 2 up
Yep.
in England, in London, England, at the Heathrow Airport, and I was just like, it was pissing rain out, dude. It was like a
Yep.
2-hour drive. It was just a nightmare. I haven't drove a manual, transmission in probably 14 years. I was
On the wrong side
horrible.
of the road.
On the wrong side of the road, everything's narrow, roundabouts, and people are just aggressive, and,
Yep.
I remember, and right when I picked y'all up at some, I don't know, McDonald's or something, and,
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
after that, I was like, "Matt, just take the wheel, man, because I was
Yeah,
done.
you were
Like
done with it.
that was like a rough first day for me because I came from Norwich and
Yep.
we had to go back. We were driving to a place outside of Norwich in Beckles, and we had this couch
Echoes.
surfing. Yeah, yeah, we
Yeah.
had this couch surfing with this guy
Phil.
Henry.
Phil, right? Oh, Henry. Sorry. Yeah, Henry. Yep.
Henry and yeah, he let us stay with him for like 5 days as we got the car prepared and everything, and then we were off. Talk about that a little bit. Talk about after that.
Yeah. I mean, geez, I don't even know where to begin. I guess the beginning. Yeah, it was a pretty. I felt really weird the first couple days trying to drive. I'd never driven stick shift with my left hand before. Um, that's immediately what comes to mind. And yeah, I think we ended up in London, right, for a couple days.
Mhm.
Took the ferry out to France, out of Dover, and then we were like really on our way. I remember we were a little worried at first because technically our car wasn't road legal in the UK, right? Because we didn't have our MOT done, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly.
So I remember it was a little nerve wracking to get the car out of the country, and once we did, we were like, "Oh, okay, no one cares anymore," with the address that we had from the UK. But yeah, I mean, geez, it's crazy because I think what did we do, a month and a half in Western Europe? I think right before the rally, I think something like that. And I feel like we spent half of our money just in Western Europe. It was so expensive for us. Um, but yeah, I mean, geez, between hitting like all the historic cities in Belgium to, I feel like we had so many things on our list of places we wanted to go, and it felt like we had all this time, and it was we really made things happen to get to places. And we also got really lucky in Western Europe without having too many car problems. So that was good. Amsterdam, I guess. Heineken factory was pretty cool. I remember doing that.
Yep,
But
yep.
yeah, I mean, we're what part of the trip you want me to go into here? Because I mean, I could talk for days about it.
So, I mean, I'll help out a bit on this. We drove from Amsterdam to Cologne, met my friends in Cologne, stayed with them.
Oh God,
I had an incident
would you like to go into this?
where I essentially got lost and separated from the group, to put it in a nice way, one night,
Yeah, that's
it it took me about 24 hours to get back to the place, that my friends were staying. So
I'll tell the I'll tell the listeners what he woke up to. He woke up with permanent marker that was wiped off of him, where he was trying to find the address, and me and the other person I was with were told to not worry that he would find his way home. And Ryan was rightfully upset when he came back, but it all worked out. And God, that was a rough night.
that was a rough night, but those little stories make it, you know? I mean, I love looking back on stuff like that, and yeah, in the moment, it was rough, you know, because
Yep,
like, I literally had nothing, like, I didn't have like, cash, I didn't have my phone was dead,
yep,
no one wanted to help me out at all, I mean, except for, like, these 2 homeless guys that I was hanging
I
out with
know.
all day,
Yeah,
and, I don't know, man, it ended up being cool, and but yeah, after that, we ended up driving down the eastern side of Germany to, Berg Castle, which was super cool, um, into Luxembourg into Luxembourg
yeah.
City.
We had a cool hike there too, which I wasn't expecting to find a cool nature hike. It was like along the river, kind of close to Germany in Luxembourg, I believe. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's where those, we were staying the night, I think we were camping in our tents, but had these barrels, like, barrel, camp campsites, like, Like, you could stay in
Oh
these
yeah.
huge barrels.
Oh yeah. I completely forgot about that. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty cool. And then where did we end up after that? We kind of what cut through Germany, and then we went back into France, right? And
Yep.
then we did our then we did what, a couple days in Paris. Did the did the sites and museums there. I remember we went to the Norman coast, and you started hitting a couple of the World War II areas. I know I was kind of a little tired at that moment in time. Uh, but that I know you had an amazing experience doing the whole D-Day. Um, landing beaches. Which beach did you go? Not Omaha. It was a different one, right?
Yeah, I went to, Utah Beach.
Utah Beach.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
I know where you're staying with this couple, right? And this, like they had, like, campground set up. They just had some land that we could use to camp on.
Yeah, they were super cool. That was those people were amazing. Big bikers, if I'm not mistaken. Like the whole family just would bike as a family. Um, and what we end up doing was it how do you say it, Saint Michel, right? The big castle that's separated by the water.
Yeah, Mont Saint Michel, I believe that is, yep.
Oh, Saint Michel. And then I had for me though, when I think of France, with our time there, I always revert back to Dunes of Palat because we were supposed to be there for a day. And I think it turned into 3 days of us just being there and trying to sandboard, which was, I found out later that it was 100% not allowed to do there, but yet no one ever said anything to us. Feel like we got really lucky with that.
Yeah, we got super lucky, and I sucked at it. You were pretty good,
I was trying.
relative to our experience, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it felt very weird. I definitely was thought it was going to be a little easier from with my snowboarding background, and but yeah, that's definitely 100% a different sport with the yeah with our one sponsor from a sandboarding place is shout out to the Sand Dune Park sandboarding place of Oregon. I forget the name now.
Is it Sandmaster Park or something like that?
Yeah, yes, yeah, Master Park with Dr. Sander. I forget what he calls himself, but yeah.
No, that was awesome, man. I gave it my all, and I really enjoyed it. At the end of it, I did pick up a little bit, but and got some speed,
You
and that was
definitely
just
did.
fun enough. And the dynamic between, like, you looking in it was almost like a rainforest canopy, and then on the other
Yeah.
side was the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a landscape like that with such a, yeah, like you said, ocean one side, big sand dune, and then dense forest. It's definitely the only time in my life I've seen an area that looks even remotely close to that. And go figure, it's in France.
Yeah, absolutely. You wouldn't think it would be there. It's more or less
No.
like an anomaly, you know?
Yeah, it felt out of place. Yeah, and then we end up what, heading down towards Basque Country. Freaking love San Sebastian. I still need to go back to Basque Country just because of the beauty and the food. Oh my god, I can have pinchos all day there. And yeah, Basque Country was amazing. Then we did something a little on the crazier side in Spain. Um, yeah, how did you feel about that experience?
Yeah, dude. After San Sebastian, which was incredible, we went to Pamplona, and Matt and I ran with the bulls. We participated in the San Fermin Festival, and we didn't know what we were getting into at all. I mean,
Definitely
kind of.
not.
I mean, like, no research done. Like, oh, running with bulls. Let's do that. Like, it
Yep.
was, and we made it for the first day of running, which is said to be the most dangerous because there's so many people. Just the amount of people make it
Yeah.
dangerous. Getting pushed over and trampled is the biggest worry, of course, and the most
Yep.
injuries. Um, but we started running. I'll never forget it, man. We were standing at that little corner there, and the
Oh
bulls
God.
were let out at the bottom, and you could just hear their hoofs over that cobblestone, just clack, clack, clack. And then I looked
You
at you,
didn't see them
and
yet.
we were both like, "Good luck, man!" And we fucking fist bump, and we took off running as soon as those bulls rounded that corner. That shit was insane, man.
Man, I started running, and then as soon as they were like getting close, I flattened out. Like I was like, I am not running directly. Like, yeah, man, I had a moment there where I was just like, wow, I am about to get killed over here. And I remember, I know you ended up running. You made it into the stadium or no? I made it when I got there. The doors were just starting to close. There was also some guy that got completely trashed, like flipped over, kind of close to when I was running towards it. Did you made it into the arena or no?
Yeah, I made it to the arena. And I was trying to find you. I was like,
Yeah, no,
where's Matt?"
the doors. I was on that little section. I think there was, I don't know if it was a bridge, but there was like a narrower section right before where the doors are. And the doors were just closing when I was on that stretch. So I just missed out on that. But yeah, either way, that was insane. I think that's a one time thing for me on that. But
Same,
I
man.
think that was I think that was pretty cool. I mean, we were definitely in search of unique cultural experiences and everything else. And there's few things in this world I think that are as iconic, no matter how you view that, but pretty iconic either way culturally. And it was pretty cool to be able to be a part of that. Even the day before for the opening ceremonies was that was intense. That was you couldn't even breathe because it was everyone smushed and my shoes were completely destroyed. I was walking barefoot after, that was an interesting time.
Yeah, that was an interesting time, man, and, uh, it was a crazy cultural experience and, me almost getting gored in the arena and a bull ran me up, the wall there and or I ran the wall myself. I was like, "Fuck this, I'm out." And, no, but it was great, man, and, like, people listening to this that wanna do a big rally, it doesn't come with its struggles. Even if you're good friends with people, you're gonna get into arguments and stuff like that, and we did
Oh, for
have
sure.
we did have, our little a couple episodes where and we always worked through it and always got, back on
Oh, yeah,
course
for
and
sure.
but I'm here to tell everyone, if you're gonna do this, you're gonna argue, you're gonna have situations where you're gonna get tired of each other and stuff like that, that's just
Oh, yeah.
natural,
Mhm.
but it's worth it to push on. It's worth it to
Yeah,
push
definitely.
on.
Yeah, I know. I know. We had a fight in Spain, I believe, and it was just about driving, and we were cranky in the morning, and we've also been sleeping in tents in bad weather, good weather, in the car, driving ridiculous amounts certain days. Yeah, it's gonna happen. It's always fun to talk about the fun travel stories, but there's also the ones that you always kind of keep in the back of your head a little bit. Like you know, I just yeah, exactly. There's always going to be good and bad, so you got to kind of roll with the punches.
Yeah, yeah, and don't let that deter you or anything, just,
Definitely not.
keep that in mind, honestly, but no, it was awesome after we left Spain, hit Andorra, was just great, the Pyrenees Mountains, and then we, got to the Mediterranean, hit Nice, hit,
Monaco.
Marseille, and then Monaco was crazy, right? The opulence and just luxury of that place was the abundance was, just palpable, right?
Yeah, and I know what we tried to walk into the casino, and we're just, not looking very ripe, and I know we just walked into like the main entrance, and then we weren't even allowed to go any further or whatever. But I think yeah, it was crazy because it was just like exotic car, $100 million yacht, and it was just crazy to see that much wealth in one very small area. I just you know what I remember? I don't know why it always sticks in my head is I bought the most expensive magnet I've ever bought in my life, and it was just a poker chip, and it was like 15 euros. And I was like, okay, well, I'm done in this country. I got pizza and a magnet.
Dude, just like the car wash in there, we got some pizza, man, we sat on the side of
Oh
the
yeah,
road, just, like, on the main strip there, and just watching, like, the luxurious cars, the, sports cars, Lamborghinis, what
oh
have you,
yeah.
roll through there was insane, dude.
It felt like a car show. Yeah, it felt like you were just kind of sitting in a car show. Yeah, and all the cars are pulling in. It was yeah, that was I enjoyed that. Yeah, I remember we were just on the sidewalk, pretty much, kind of just had our box of pizza and we were just going to town and enjoying ourselves. Yeah, that was fun.
No, that was crazy, man. Um, and then Monaco, we went through the Alps and everything. We went through the French Alps, or no, Italian Alps, and then
Yeah,
we
Grand
went into
Paradiso.
Grand Paradiso. That's in a very obscure national park with not many tourists, as we found it at least. Um,
Yeah, it was like more like Italian and French tourists. So yeah, not a lot of at least when we went, it was that was really nice. You can't beat the Alps for hiking because they always have the restaurants and everything and accommodations at the top of mountains and stuff. So I definitely want to spend more time out there for sure at one point. I was actually talking about the Dolomites today with some potential trips in the future, but yeah. Yeah, and then we ended up what Switzerland, which was really nice. We had one of the best camping spots I've ever had in my life, I think, out in Switzerland. That was I remember waking up and just being like, wow, I can't believe this is real life right now. And then well, we toured around Liechtenstein just for the heck of it. And then ended up in Munich, had our bunch of beer and not as much as we had in Cologne, but but
right?
bunch of beer in Munich and checked out some of the sites. Went to the other castle over there, the Disneyland castle that I can never pronounce the name of.
Neuschwanstein,
Outside.
is that it?
Yeah, that sounds like it. I will
I
never
don't
fucking
know. Maybe
pronounce that name.
I guarantee I'm butchering it.
It's okay. Everyone knows what we're talking about. Um, yeah. Then what? We after that, it was straight to Czech Republic to start the rally. Yeah.
Yeah, right there in Junktown, dude. Um,
Jumped.
we went we went to like Pilsen and like the I don't know the city
Oh
with the
yeah.
bone church.
Yeah, it was like Brone or something like that. But yeah, yeah, the place that the Bohemian place that was just like tens of thousands of bones that they just tried to in the I think it was in the 1800s someone said do something with these bones and he made chandeliers and pyramids out of them in a church. So that was pretty cool. I would have to say. And then Pilsen was amazing. Went through the with the Pilsner Museum. Those underground tunnels were really cool underneath the city.
Yeah, where they used to just have like deliver beer to people's houses like through the little trap doors.
Yeah, I'd sign me up. That sounds great. I need a house like that.
No, and then we went to Junktown, started the rally, which was cool, man. They made this makeshift city outside of Prague, like 30 minutes outside of
Mhm.
Prague. I talk about this on other podcasts. But yeah, they made this makeshift city games, everything you could ask for, like they had it all. And it was super cool launching point for the rally. And,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, it was just a great experience. And so when we left there, we met some great people. Left there, and then we headed for the Balkans. Essentially, we headed
Yeah, yeah.
Slovakia. We had to get a new window. We met my buddy Dom, or our buddy
Oh yeah,
Dom,
yeah.
and then got a new
We
window
got
because ours got
robbed.
busted out. We got robbed in
Yeah,
Prague.
we got robbed. Yep.
They didn't get much though.
No, no, they got your lens. I remember that. They got a backpack full of rotten food that we should have thrown out a week prior. And then they got all of our damn magnets. That's the only thing I'm mad about. To this day, I wish I had those magnets from those places. But oh well. Um, but yeah, they didn't make them get much. We just had to get the glass. I think what was it? Yeah, it was Dom that set that up, right? It was in Slovakia when we did that.
Yeah, yeah. They set it up, and we drove to this like far out place and obscure place in Slovakia, and got this window from this guy for cheap.
Yeah, yeah, we got lucky on that because I remember we were trying to look for it ourselves and we are like, we have no idea how to make this happen.
Yeah, we had a trash bag in there. Dude, we went to every junkyard in Czechia, formerly Czech Republic. We went to every whatever we could do, like we tried everything on our own.
Yeah, and just nothing was working out. So luckily we had Dom, and yeah, he was nice enough to have us over, and we ended up doing a little hiking out there in the Tatras, and yeah, that was a lot of fun. And yeah, very thankful for him. Then Then we end up in Slovenia, and then we did what the touristy things, yeah, Lake Bled, stuff like that. But I always think about, and I'll talk about this to this day when people ask me about the rally. I talk about how we went to a junkyard, found a frame that I think they said was for some kind of refrigeration unit, and went next door, talked to these people that welded, and they thought it was so hilarious what we were doing. They just welded it for free on top of our car to have a car rack. Those people to this day have to be some of the nicest people I've ever met. Yeah,
Yeah, they were like, "I don't know about we can't guarantee the reliability of this, but we wanna help you."
yeah. And they're like, we might by mistake weld a hole through your roof, and we are like, yeah, no, that's fine. They're like, okay, sure. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's an $800 Nissan Micra. No
Yeah,
worries.
like who cares? Yeah, we'll silicone it or something if it really happens. But yeah, no, that weld. I believe one of it cracked at one point, but that was later on in the adventure. But yeah, it worked out and did its job. So no complaints there. And then what? Then we were down in Croatia, amazing beaches, Dubrovnik, King's Landing. That was great. I was really impressed with Montenegro. I never would have been a place that would have been like, I need to really go there, but I was really impressed with Montenegro. How about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Montenegro was cool, and I think where did we stay? Qatar? Was that the place it was?
Yeah. It's where yeah, it's one of the tourist spots there, but it was gorgeous. I can see why tourists go there. Um, yeah, we got lucky because there was no cruise ships or anything like that in town, and we kind of hit it early in the morning, right? So I think we hit it that was good timing there.
Yeah, we did that little hike up to the castle there in town,
Oh yeah,
and then left there, and it was just an amazingly beautiful. It was uh, like the little Cottonwood Canyons here in Utah with like the sea, like I don't know, like just
yeah,
beautiful, like dramatic mountains, with the sea, and it was just an incredible little place and a little stopover. But then we
yeah,
headed down the coast there, and what did we hit? We hit Albania.
yeah. It was a Sarandon. Sarandon was our stop, which felt very tropical. I wasn't expecting tropical feels. I mean, we were almost in Greece at that point, right? We did what, a little snorkeling. Remember doing seeing some sea urchins and some other fish over there. That was pretty cool.
That was pretty cool. I wasn't expecting that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. Now that we're talking, I'm really starting to think of some things that we did that we might have. Well, do you plan on going to Greece anytime soon?
Uh, yeah. Like it is definitely on my list. Italy is definitely on my list too, so I'll be over there closer.
Okay. I was just asking because I remember us crossing over the border in Greece, and there was a archaeological site that was closed. Yet somehow we might have seen it. You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. So yeah, for the people listening, yeah, maybe don't go into places that are closed. You might know this already, but we had fun. But that was yeah, I haven't thought about that in a long time either. But yeah, that was a fun drive. Athens was great. Doing what's that place called north of Athens? With
Meteora.
with the monasteries. That felt otherworldly, to be honest.
Yeah, and we were staying right under him. I think we stayed in a little campground. We set up our tents in this little campground right below those, and like we could like when we woke up in the morning, we could just see these huge mountains with these monasteries built on top of them.
Yeah, and we didn't even realize how close we really were to them. So I think the waking up part and seeing that was like whoa, because we had no scale of where we really were at that time.
Yeah, dude, I would highly recommend Meteora to anyone. Obviously Athens, the Acropolis, Greek islands are
Yeah.
amazing. You can't go wrong with any of that, but um,
No.
definitely don't look that over for sure. Check that out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then we made our way northern Macedonia, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Skopje. And that was interesting. Honestly, felt you know, it felt like we were kind of, I feel like North Macedonia, for me at least, was the first time in the trip where I felt like, okay, we are leaving not Western culture, but like what we are accustomed to as Westerners. It started feeling different, in my opinion.
Absolutely. You know, I think it was more of a developing nation, and
For
I
sure.
don't know, probably still is, and after that, yeah, it was a unique experience seeing, the Philip and Alexander the Great statues and
Yeah. Yeah, it was
that kind of
cool.
thing. And then off to Serbia after that, I believe, where we had
Yeah.
a little
We had a
incident where,
cool, yeah, I liked Serbia. It wasn't because of what we saw there. It was more, well, we had an incident, but right before that, I believe, or maybe it was after, we were trying to grab a beer, but we didn't understand the system that you needed a bottle, right? And there was these
yeah,
guys in the park that gave us a bottle, and then we ended up hanging out with them, and then they invited, it was like 20 people there, and we were supposed to only be there for a little, I think we were just passing through really. And like I think we wanted lunch and we ended up being over there with them for like 5, 6 hours in the park.
yeah, just bullshitting about everything imaginable.
Yeah, yeah, those I still see some of those guys' Facebook posts every once in a while. But that was a fun time. And then yeah, we had a little incident, didn't we, in the middle of the night?
Yeah, there was no gas stations to be found. We were in the middle of nowhere, Serbia, and we're getting close to empty on the gas tank, and we passed through this little town and then headed up the mountain. But all the service station we did pass was closed, and yeah, we ended up making the decision to go back into the town because these guys at midnight were playing cards on the side of the
Yeah.
street, and we were like, "Hey guys, can we get some? Like, is there any way we can get some gas?" And and it ended up working out because they called their buddy and he siphoned gas out of a garden hose into
Yep.
our vehicle.
How lucky were we? And then I remember there was some student, like I think she was like younger, like 16, 17, who had just been to the United States. So she was working as our translator essentially. And yeah, I we got very lucky that night. We could have easily just been on the side of the road waving people down the next morning, and we ended up lucking out and being on our way, and then finally finding a gas station. I don't even know where, but I think we parked for the night and found something in the morning or something. But yeah, then what it was then we headed to Budapest. I had a great experience in Budapest. I thought it was like the less touristy version of Prague, in my opinion. It was beautiful, great architecture, interesting things to do, decent food. I really liked that. And then yeah, and then we kind of just ran through Bulgaria in the middle of the night, didn't we?
Yeah, we drove through it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, we kind of had to just hightail it. We were feel like we were like kind of slipping on days, and we were seeing a lot of the other teams already. Like some people are through Turkey already, and we haven't even left Eastern Europe yet. Um, then I believe we actually got a plate like an Airbnb for like 2, 3 days in Istanbul. I believe, right?
Yeah, that was really an experience, man.
Yeah, I love Istanbul. I've been back once since, and I really like that city. It's pretty special. It's very modern, but then it has all the Hagia Sophia, Blue Mosque, all the things that people want to go see as a first time tourist in Istanbul. But just the rest of the scene there is great. The people are fantastic, and I think one of our highlights of our trip was just being in Turkey in general.
I think so too, man. Istanbul is awesome, but honestly, going through to, like, the old Roman citadels, like Pergamon was so cool,
Um,
right? So
I
obscure.
to this day, everyone always is like Ephesus, Ephesus. I'm like Ephesus is great, but I don't know. We had an amazing experience at Pergamon because there was like it's an extensive site. There was maybe a dozen or two people on the entire site. Like some of the best mosaics I've ever seen in my life. Um, and it was I just was shocked by how large the entire site was. To this day, I need to go to Berlin I need to go to the Pergamon Museum just to see the temple that they pretty much brought over. Because since we saw literally where they took it from, the exact spot. Yeah, I think that would be really cool. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you that the West Coast for history was amazing, and then we end up driving out to Cappadocia, which I know you thought that was. I mean, I loved it. That and Pamukkale, that was just some epic. Those pools are amazing. And then I remember the day before where there was those dogs, and then there was it was those travertines, the those little Pamukkale, like those terraced water areas. Remember that
Yep.
cave we went to that had those travertines in it? That was super cool. There was no one there either.
Was it the place that would the police came to us at 4 o'clock in the
Yeah.
morning? The Turkish police?
Yep.
Yeah, and they were like, "What are you doing here? We have all these stickers all over our car looking crazy."
We were tenting on asphalt, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, right next to this
We were
cave.
so lazy that day. Yeah, we were so lazy that day. We were like, you know what? This concrete's fine.
It will do.
Yeah, it
And,
will do.
yeah, there was, like it was crazy cave, like, with, I mean, there's tons of bats and, like, I don't know, it was not that large if I remember correctly, but
No,
it
no.
was so cool. It was just, like, a weird experience and this just, like it was like a public park.
Yeah, yeah. Public park, but like the infrastructure, it was like a park. It was like used to be a water park outside of it or something, but it was clearly not in use or like a pool area, I think. And like the stairs going into the cave were like falling apart, and yeah, it was just us there. And yeah, I remember that being pretty neat. And then what, Cappadocia? I mean, everyone knows. Yeah, it's great. Seeing all those rock formations, and then obviously seeing the balloons in the morning and waking up early to go do that. I remember being woken up very not happy because it was like an hour away, and the cops told us to go away, and then we tried to rest, and it was the mosque going off. We were like, oh man, this is gonna be a rough morning, but we stuck through it there. That was fun. Then we started heading out further east, and that's where I think was some of my. I think while all of that we just talked about in Turkey was amazing, I think seeing Mount Nemera and then chugging up the mountain with our car dying, and then going to Mardin and Hasankeyf was just, even though I remember it being some of the hottest temperatures I've ever felt in my life when we were there. Um, and funny enough, I actually like the last week or two of my last contract, they were one of the guests on the ship. She was Turkish, and I was like, "Oh, we're in Turkey from from East." I was like, "Oh," and she's like near the Syrian border. I'm like, Mardin, and she's like, yeah. How do you know that place?" I was like, "Oh, I drove there with my buddy years ago." And like, "What do you mean you drove there?" And so it started this whole conversation. So I thought that you'd find that funny. I actually met someone randomly from Mardin, um, because I know you really wanted to go to that place, and that was cool too, having gunfire over our head while we're drinking tea in a cafe. Yeah, right?
That was insane, and we went there at a very turbulent point where the State Department, unbeknownst to us, we State Department put out a thing where it's like, "Hey, there's kidnapping, there's possible, this and that," and we didn't even look up any of that shit.
Nope. And that area was red. Yeah, if you're aware of how the U.S. has maps of threat areas to completely avoid, that area was 100% red at that time.
Yeah, we were one of the only tourists there, and, like,
I saw one other tourist. I saw one lady. I saw one lady there the entire time.
yeah, other than that, it was just, Turkish people and,
Yeah,
Kurdish people, I assume, too.
yeah.
Um,
Those people, those kids that were following us.
they're a little
You
nuts,
remember?
man. They grow
You
they're
remember?
built different over there.
Yeah, you remember that kid that was following us, and then the other kid told him to leave us alone, and end up like punching him and like throwing him through like a sign. Oh
One kid,
man.
like, drop kicked the kid, like,
Yeah,
literally. Like, it was looking like WWE.
yeah, yeah,
Dude, that
yeah,
was
man.
funny, dude. But then we
Yeah,
went to Keep, which was very special.
yeah. For me, that was an area that I'd seen on National Geographics because they were talking about the dam project that Turkey was building and how it would destroy it. So that's a place with 10,000 years of continuous, they believe, human habitation. And now most of it is actually underwater in that river. And we were lucky enough to see it a month before the water level was going to rise high enough for the old city to be pretty much underwater. So we got to explore a lot of those caves that, and just all that interesting history that's there. Um, that now you can't see it, and I think that's a goes. I think that's like a something I talk about often when I refer to travel while you can, because there's no guarantee that you can travel to these areas, which I mean, COVID showed everyone this. And I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about Russia in a little bit, but as Westerners, we can't really go there safely now. Um, but yeah, that's for me. I always think about that. I'm like, I'm so happy that it was just this dream spot that I always had, posted on my wall. That would be, I always thought would be interesting to see, but not realistic to go to. And to be able to do that on this trip was extremely special on my end.
Yeah, you were definitely, the reason we went there, and I had no clue about it before prior to that.
Yeah,
But it was an amazing thing, and that speaks on because you have a history degree, that speaks on a lot of the times we did get lucky, and, uh, and a lot of the times you did have us, places you wanted to hit, and we were lucky enough to get to see places before maybe they went underwater or, before COVID, essentially, in 2019, doing this trip right before COVID was kinda crazy.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, and just everything. We got to hit Göbekli Tepe, a
Oh yeah,
12,000-year-old
how did I forget
temple.
that? Yeah,
Um, After that, and I mean, but when the time we were there, we had no AC in the Nissan Micra, and it was around 112 degrees during the day.
yeah. That was rough, and I remember you know, remember when we were in Helsinki, we are like, all right, even for me, I was like, I'm so happy to be here, but I literally want to get back in the car. We probably cut that like an hour or two shorter than it would have been because we just wanted to get in the car to feel like we were only 90 degrees with with the windows rolled down, So yeah, that was I definitely remember that heat.
Yeah, and we were rolled the windows down, there's just the hot air just hitting us in the face. We're like, "Oh, shit," like
Yeah, yeah. There was some serious sweating. There's a reason why that car ended up getting moldy with those photos we got after we gave it to someone. Um, I feel like half of that was just from that day.
No, dude, 1,000% true, and we had some very sweaty days during that summer. The we left there, went to Georgia, and
Yep.
camped, like, near the Caucasus Mountains, beautiful, like, this we met this old dude, he gave us some, like, homemade everyone makes their own wine there, so, like, he gave us some of his wine, and we were camping in, like, his land, essentially well, maybe, I don't know
Yeah,
if it was or not. Um,
it seemed like it.
seemed like it, he was very hospitable anyway. We went to Tbilisi, right?
Yeah, we were in Tbilisi. I think we that was another time where we needed like a hotel. I remember I needed a haircut. We needed to take showers. Like we were there for I think a couple days, 3 days maybe, 2 days,
Yeah,
three
yeah.
days.
Yeah, and we went to one of the places Anthony Bourdain ate at. I remember you
Yeah,
went there, and then
yeah,
recommended it, we went back. But funny
yeah.
enough, my buddy was just, he's cycling across, like, essentially the world right now, his name's Lockie, and, funny enough,
Okay, cool.
he was in Tbilisi, like, 3 weeks ago, and I sent him to that same place that's still open.
It's still open. No, that's cool. What do you think of it?
He had that fried chicken and the garlic, I forgot what the name of it is, the fried chicken and the garlic, cast iron pan with the garlic,
Yeah.
sauce, like, boiling garlic sauce. He had that, and he was
Hmm,
like, "Dude,
hmm.
that was amazing, man." He was like, "Thank you for that recommendation."
Some of the best chicken to this day I've ever had. To be honest, right there. That was. Yeah, I really like. That's a country I would 100% go to again. I would like to explore more of the mountains further north for sure. But that country's very underrated, I think.
Yeah, underrated cuisine as well, the konkalis, the,
Hmm,
just some of the other, like, dishes they had there, desserts, everything was pretty good there, and it's a beautiful
hmm.
country too.
Yeah, nice people, good country, good food. Hard to complain.
Yeah, and then we kinda went to Armenia. Technically, we did, and then came right back
Yeah, we
because
had a bad. We were just over it, weren't we?
yeah, dude, no more and they were just trying to give us shit, and we were just like, "You know what? This is just not worth it."
No, we were like, fuck this. We can spend time in a country we want to be. No offense to that country. I'm sure it's great. We had been waiting hours and hours in a line. Then we were just getting hassled by everyone with the border. And then it was the people on the other side just like almost refusing. We know how to say no from our travels, but man, they were persistent. We were like, you know what? We forgot something in Georgia. We have to go back. And that's what we said. And we left.
Yeah, we're out. Yeah, we went back to Georgia and then into Azerbaijan,
Yeah,
which I don't
yeah.
believe you can drive there anymore, I don't think. Right now, at least, no.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been seeing that because there's it's not a friend of mine, just a guy I follow, I think on Instagram, who's he's doing a similar trip as it seems like Buddy is, but he avoided Azerbaijan because yeah, you can't do it anymore, and he has to go through Iraq now, which is insane. But yeah, the Azerbaijan, weird time. I think my favorite memory is that mountain pass where the cop ended up we ended up breaking out the Jameson and drinking with the cop thinking it was a trap.
No, and he just wanted to
Um,
drink with us, and then we had and there was, like, had the dehydrated fruits everywhere on the side of the road.
yeah, like a less tasty fruit roll up. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely all natural, something we're not used to, like, in the United States, all processed shit and refined sugars.
For sure.
But yeah, and then that was cool, and then going to that town Ganja with all those statues, and it looked like it could be really cool, and it was kind of like a
Oh
ghost town
yeah.
more or less.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know if I've thought about that since 2019, to be honest with you. Because I remember we tried to get a hotel there too, and then the hotel didn't exist, right? And then we were like driving around, and yeah, it looked interesting, but weird. Yeah. It was, it felt like a precursor to Turkmenistan being there?
No, it did, and it was super cool, like, a beautiful layout and had a lot of potential. But yeah, we came up on our booking, the place, the address that we had booked, the roads were like absolute dog water, like just
Yeah.
horrible. And
Mhm.
and it was beating up the Micra, and we get to this address and it's like all lights are off, doesn't look like anyone's doing anything. And we asked around, we tried to find it, it's like, dude, we have a booking here. And no one was like, "Yeah, we don't know." And
Yeah, it was really weird.
then we found a place uh, right out back by the highway, I believe, or something like that. And then slept right before Baku. Baku was crazy, just in the sense of just driving in it.
Yeah, that had to be. I think. I think. I don't know. If, I can't remember. I remember there was two places that I thought we were gonna die just from traffic. It was Athens, go figure, and then it was Baku. I forget if one of us was driving Athens, one of us was driving Baku, but either way, Baku was kind of nutty to drive through, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, you remember when I was driving out of the city of Baku and I totally missed the speed bump. I didn't even know it was there and
Oh
I just launched us. I launched the micro, dude, and we came down hard and I was like, "I'm sorry guys, like that was totally on me." There
I
was
think we all have
nothing. I
moments
didn't see
like
it.
that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, they got us on that one, and then we probably had. I would say, I don't know. I would say, in retrospect, it was really interesting, and we knew it was going to be a struggle. But I think it might have been one of the low points when we were waiting for the Caspian Sea ferry. How do you view that now that it's been years?
Dude, we were what I think of, it was okay, like, as far as what we heard in the past and what stories I've heard now, like, I had, Rayhali on the podcast, and they had a way more nightmare experience than we did. We waited maybe 3 days. We met that
Yeah.
New Zealand team. We were camped out on the asphalt. Yeah, I mean, it
Yeah.
was still, like, a hassle. Like, we waited 72 hours to get on the boat, to ferry across the Caspian Sea to Turkmenistan, to Turkmenbashi. Um, but we had one drunken night where, like, I wrestled this, like, German dude
Oh
in this
yes, I
restaurant.
remember.
We had dinner at in a it was is a lot or something like that. I don't remember the town, but,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
it was
I
like
think it
10 or
was the
12
one.
of
Yeah.
right? There was like 10 or 12 of us at the dinner in this, Azerbaijani restaurant, and, I mean, we had, like, a couple bottles of vodka on the table, and, I was drinking pretty heavy, and there's this one jack German dude on a motorcycle that's going across the world, and he was going to Kazakhstan, and he was just, like, bulldogging everyone. You remember that?
Yeah, he was. I think he's like the only person on the trip that I met that I didn't like truly could say I didn't like. He was. Yeah, I felt like he was just a little insecure there, to say the least.
Right?
And then, like it wasn't, for the listeners, it wasn't like Ryan was drunk and then decided, hey, I'm gonna wrestle this guy. It was more this guy was just kind of, like I'm glad you kind of did because he kind of needed to just get something. He needed to release some energy because that dude was a problem. I'm glad he ended up going to Kazakhstan instead of Turkmenistan first. To be honest.
Yeah, it was getting really old, like, his just
Yeah.
his presence, and after that night, we didn't speak a word to him, like, even at, like,
No.
the port, anything like that, but that was funny, and, no, we got
Yeah.
to Turkmenbashi in Turkmenistan, we ferried, it took us, like, 24 hours, so, like, 96 hours total to get
My
to
God.
Turkmenbashi from the port, and when
And
we
I
got
know.
there
Yeah.
go ahead, talk about when we got there
No,
because you
go
had to
ahead.
deal with it,
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
because when we got there, it took us 7 hours to get, processed, right?
That had to be the craziest border crossing experience I've ever had because so unfortunately in that moment the car was technically in my name. So I had to go through everything, but I've never been through a process like that. And I was pretty much competing with a lot of the truck drivers who knew the process, but it wasn't like we got this permit and then go here, pay there. It was you go to this window, you grab a ticket, then you go to another window, you pay someone some money, and then oh wait, now you need to go to do agricultural thing, and that's like another hour because it's just jostling at these windows. And then I think altogether there was something like 8 or 9 different processes for the entire just to get the car into the country. It was it felt convoluted on purpose. Yeah, I just remember you guys waiting outside and being like, "What the heck is taking so long? Like, how could this possibly take this long?"
Yeah, it was insane, man. It was insane.
Mm.
And then unfortunately, a little bit after that, we were driving on the highway to Ashgabat and blew the head gasket.
Sure did. Yeah, and we didn't really know exactly what was happening right at first, but we did figure it out pretty quickly after that. Luckily, we kept we're just pouring some water in and keeping it cool and running low. But then we ended up getting towed into Ashgabat, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it
And
was yeah, we had
yeah,
that
thank God for
15
the
foot.
New Zealand team.
Yeah, the New Zealand team was ahead of us, and then we had a 15-foot tow rope in our car. And
Yep.
that night, I don't think we had enough water or something, and we got towed to this little town that we ended up exploring in the morning, and then
Oh
we had
yeah.
enough. We got a bunch of water, and we were able to make it to just keep putting water in it and to make it to Ashgabat. But dude, that was insane, man. I remember I was behind the wheel, man, white knuckling, coming up on the car, and because the Turkmen highway was so bumpy that like it would
Mm-hmm.
force me up into the rear of the Barefoot Bandits car, um,
Yep.
and then back again and like snatch the rope.
Yeah, it felt like we were gonna slam into them, or we were gonna almost like rip them off the road somehow. You know, that was a scary drive into Ashgabat, to be honest. But yeah, I can't believe because we were on a 5-day transit visa, right? And you know, Turkmenistan's not really a friendly country, government wise. So the whole process of us being able to actually find a mechanic, getting the parts since they didn't have Nissans or at least Nissan Micros in the country, getting the parts from Turkey to sent there to Ashgabat within time was I didn't think it was possible. I honestly thought our trip was done. I thought there was a high probability of our trip being done in Turkmenistan.
We talked about that. We talked about, hey man,
Mhm.
I was like, this might be it. If it's anywhere comparable to the US, like a $800, $1,200 head gasket fix,
Yeah.
we're through.
Yep. Yeah. No,
But it
we were all on the same page, and I remember us both dealing with this, and then I remember I had some of the worst food poisoning in my life in Ashgabat, and yeah, I just remember us keep going to the mechanic. It was like daily, right? We would go to the mechanic just to see where they were at with everything. Um, but yeah, we got lucky with the parts, and I think it was like what something. It was under 300 US dollars with labor and parts and everything, um, which is I never thought that was going to be the case like that low. So we got so lucky with that. Yeah, we end up making it to the gates of hell, and still having enough time for that, which was amazing. And then yeah, I remember leaving the country was a little weird because they were like pushing like the local officers were like pushing locals to the ground for us to go through. I was like, guys, no, you don't need to be doing that. Like, we're not in that much of a hurry. We were, but not that much of a hurry, you know?
Yeah, yeah, we could wait just a second, let them get processed too.
Yeah, yeah. You don't have to be pushing people to the ground. And then yeah, Uzbek, man, Uzbek. That was I would go there again. Our first big stop was Kiva. I thought that was really that felt probably the most genuine of the historical sites. How do you feel about that?
I think that too. I think it was such a small, unique little, you know, blast from the past, man. It was just and it was just like you were going back in time, right?
Yeah, for sure. It was like, you know, that whole Silk Road history there that is going through that area. And I was really impressed with the restoration and the conservation work that they've been doing. I'm glad to see that they've been actually. I don't know if you've noticed the last couple of years they've actually dropped a lot of the visa requirements for most countries. But they clearly see the interest that there is in visiting that country because of Samarkand and Bukhara and Khiva, among other sites, which are spectacular, to say the least. I mean, Samarkand was great, and Bukhara. Yeah. And then after that, is there anything else in Uzbek that piqued your interest there?
No, I mean, the people were great, the hospitable, all across Central Asia, they greet you with a watermelon. I don't know, we had, like, 3 watermelons in our car at one point.
Yep.
Um,
I remember
so
being
that was
woken up.
cool.
We went to that fair. We went to that like that fair at night or something. And I remember like coming back to the car and someone was just like waiting with a watermelon.
Yeah, and he was like, "Join us for this feast, like, for free," you know? Uzbek people are great.
Yeah, yeah, that was great. Uh, and then the next country I think is it's one of my favorite countries in the world to this day. I would love to go back and do some extensive hiking there if I ever get a chance. But I'm still just super happy that we even had a chance to do it. But that would be Tajikistan. I remember when we were first coming in to Dushanbe, which Dushanbe was interesting, not anything crazy per city, but definitely still interesting. But we had that death tunnel with just the most smog. If I was going to get cancer, lung cancer at that time, it would have pushed me over the edge right in that tunnel. Definitely, definitely lives up to its name. I can't imagine there being an accident in there and just being stuck for hours.
I totally forgot about that
Mm.
until just now.
Yeah, that was yeah. It's yeah. Just talking to you is what's making me think about it. It's a repressed memory, I think. But yeah, that was really interesting. But obviously the highlight, Tajikistan, I'm sure you'll agree, was the Pamir Highway. Being alongside Afghanistan, like I remember we were so close because there was just a river between us. Being able to wave to people on the other side and say hello, and um, unfortunately, I had my baseball that I was going to save for that, but I ended up throwing that in the gates of hell. But I remember throwing out my arm just to throw a rock into Afghanistan because I knew we couldn't get in there. I don't know why. I felt like I needed to do that, but not with any malice, of course. Just to touch Afghanistan in a weird way. But yeah, I don't. That whole drive along those mountains and those really rural communities that we were going through, it just felt like um, I felt like I was the furthest away from home um, during that part where we were truly out there in the middle of nowhere, and it was just some mind blowing landscapes. Just felt like you're on a different planet.
Yeah, I agree with that. The Pamir Highway was probably one of the best parts of the rally, and so raw,
Yeah,
untouched, dramatic, rugged mountains. And then Afghanistan, it hugged Afghanistan for, over 100 miles, and it being
yeah,
just so cool. And those little towns we stopped, we stayed in a homestay, we camped,
yep, yep.
and then like just like the little spread we had that one night at the homestay was amazing. Just good,
Oh
fresh
yeah, yep.
ingredients. Um,
That was great.
yeah, and also like they didn't give a fuck about like getting sued or litigation or anything. They're just like, here's McDolan, and here's like they had these little knockoff places, of like
Yeah.
KFC and like um clearly not the proper company, but it was just great like going through there and seeing everything that they, like and they had great food to begin with. I mean, all of Central Asia, the main staple is pilav, but
Yeah.
which is good in its own right. So, but carry your Imodium. Carry your Imodium with you.
Yep.
For the listeners out there, if you ever go to South Central Asia, and you're from the US or somewhere like, a Western country, carry your Imodium for sure,
Yeah, that was necessary.
because you're gonna get a messed up stomach.
Yeah, that was my second food poisoning. I think my second one was Kazakhstan as we were heading up. But yeah, we definitely ate some risky food, I would say, some risky places. But that's part of the adventure, right? So, like Ryan said, carry your Imodium.
Absolutely, that's great, and then we left Tajikistan into Kyrgyzstan. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but
Yeah,
um,
yeah. That's
and
how I say
then
it.
right, I don't know, and then going
Yeah,
over the Pamir Mountains into Kyrgyzstan and into Osh was really
yeah.
cool, right?
Yeah, that was a great drive, right? There was a big. I remember there being a huge no man's land between the border crossings, and just some really rough road right there where we had to go really slow. But I'm honestly really happy that we did go slow because the landscape was just really interesting. And on the Keurig side, it was just starting to become a little bit more green with a little bit more variation in colors. There's like reds and some really cool lakes. And yeah, no, and then going into Osh, that was just a really interesting village. That's what, but it felt like we were back into civilization for the first time in a little while. Because I mean, between Dushanbe to Osh, doing the Pamir Highway, there wasn't much in between. There were small towns, but really, really small towns, and yeah, I felt like we had like made it through the notorious part that ate up most of the rally teams, and that's why a lot of the Mongol ralliers actually avoid that area because we saw people flying right by us, and then we'd see them broken down on the side of the road. I think we were going max like 20k kilometers an hour through that area, and even that felt fast sometimes through the Pamirs. So yeah, Kyrgyzstan was cool. Then what? Then where were we? Kazakhstan. Yeah,
Yep, yep,
because
yep.
we were riding on a rim. We stopped in what's the city there? Shoot, I'm
Starts with an
misremembering right
A.
now. Yeah, it's like oh man, feel pretty dumb. But either way, we yeah we needed to stop there for a while because we were essentially riding on rim. And yeah,
And the brakes
Kazakhstan.
too, right? We had to get all the
Oh yeah,
brakes
that's what it was. It was the brakes that were going. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was
bad too.
Almaty. Almaty,
Al
by the way. Yeah,
Almaty,
it was
yeah.
smoking. It was literally smoking as if we touched the brakes. I remember that. Um, yeah. So for me, when I think of Kazakhstan, what I think of is those really weird cemeteries. Do you remember that?
Yeah, they were on the yeah, talk about that a little bit, but they built like, I don't know, was it concrete, like, statues for what was it?
It was something like that. I just remember it being. I've never seen that in a different country. Like it was just really ornate, and you would from the car you'd be able to tell that this is clearly something that's very different from the rest of the world. I forget exactly. I can't exactly picture it, but I just remember thinking that that was the one of the coolest and weirdest things. Cemetery wise, I'm not usually thinking about cemeteries when I travel, but yeah, but we did try and kind of truck through that, didn't we?
Yeah, we kinda more or less, pushed it across Kazakhstan up into, Russia.
Yeah, Altai Republic. God, that was a beautiful area. Eh?
Yeah. What was it? Separated in 2 parts, Altai Krai and Altai Republic. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Maybe I'm mistaken, but, um
No, it was definitely the Altai area, right? And yeah, you could tell that it's a really. We did see a decent amount of tourists there. Well, not crazy, but more than we had been seeing. But a lot of it was Russian, and it was a lot of people that would be like going on long distance hikes or doing some serious fishing and stuff like that. And that's what it was kind of geared towards. I felt like, but it was a really dramatic landscape. But yeah, then we were pretty much there for a little bit. And then we end up finally making it to the ultimate goal, really, of Mongolia. Um, what do you remember? You remember all that stuff at the border with the frisbee with the kids, and that was a long time at the border. And then we met those Russian
Yep.
guys that were like hunters that were super cool that we were talking to for a while.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, we're at the border for hours. I was just talking to Ray Halia about this, and she remembers someone getting put in jail or something like that. Some tourist.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't.
I remember hearing something about that. I'm not sure what they did, but it's yeah. I remember that being the topic of discussion once we finally ended up meeting up with Tim and other people from the rally.
Oh, he was
Shout
peeing
out
or
to
something
David.
like that.
Oh, okay,
Peeing
yeah,
on the side of the road, and there were security cameras. I don't know. That's what I think that was it. And then, yeah, shout out Tim Davis. That's when that was your buddy that pre-rally. Um, he had a lot of knowledge and stuff that was passed back and forth, and had
yeah.
a lot of good insight.
Yeah, he ended up holding back a little bit because he kept being in front of us like pretty much every other team because we were taking our time doing it. And but he kind of held back so he can hang out with us because yeah, me and him kind of became friends on Facebook because we were always talking about the rally on the Facebook group. And yeah, just super nice guy. Um, and had a lot of fun with him, especially when we are kind of cutting across Mongolia and stuff. That was what a nice guy. But yeah, I remember to this day I have to live with a bad decision that I made on that day in the Mongol Rally. I mean, crossing the Mongolia border. You remember what happened?
Oh yeah, dude. I think I was just talking about this, and because I was asking her if she remembered we were riding that motorcycle, and
Yeah.
I was a little bit more timid on it. Like I took it kind of easy. I rode around the little whatever right by their yurt, and then you got
Yeah.
on it.
Yeah, so there might have been vodka involved with that. I think we had, at least I had a decent amount of shots because I was just so excited to be in the country. And then this guy's like, "Oh, have a shot." Now I realize he was just trying to get us to stay at the yurt, but I was just so excited I didn't care. And I remember jumping on that motorcycle, and I remember just whipping it around. And I was having a lot of fun, and then I came in for the last turn and I kind of engine braked a little, but then I went to the handbrakes because I was kind of coming in hot, and the handbrakes just there was no handbrakes. And then I saw like a little path to the side that was not paved, and ended up being like, "Oh, okay, I'll be fine." Except the motorcycle had absolutely no suspension. It just clapped as soon as I hit the gravel. It just clapped, and I went flying. So yeah, that was interesting because I was pretty much useless for driving the rest of the Mongolia after that. Yeah,
No, yeah, that dude was trying to get us to stay at the yurt and get us to pay him for that. We were talking about that on the previous
yeah,
podcast, and that was funny, man. Yeah, it was definitely a good time, and at least you didn't hurt yourself too bad. But you flew like 15 yards, man. Like I was like, holy shit! Like I was over there and we were just like chilling, talking, and then that happened.
yeah,
And I seen you, and I was like, oh my god, dude! And
yeah. I went flying, man. to this
flying, dude.
to this day, I have like I can't like reach all the way back. Like if I take my left arm and try and like reach the middle of my back, I just can't do it. Like it's so the AC joint's still. I still haven't got surgery on that. That's on me, but I'm I don't have time to be 6 months of rehab right now.
No, I don't blame
So
you. And
yeah,
if it's not affecting you as much as
yeah,
it could be.
exactly. But yeah, I mean, we killed that through Mongolia. We had a lot of fun before. I'm sure if anyone's listening decides to drive through Mongolia, it looked like it was already changing, right? A lot of those sand tracks are being replaced with a brand new highway system that I believe is being funded by China, cutting across the country. So being able to do a lot of the sand routes and kind of having to pick our own routes while we get to Ulaanbaatar was really cool before they completed that project. Yeah. And then what we ended up in Ulaanbaatar, then made our final push to the finish line.
Yeah, man, we were in Ulaanbaatar. I remember the traffic was so bad there that I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
were in traffic for hours at one point. I hopped out of the car and
Yes.
went to Burger King and got us all food for Tim, our car, and and uh and made it back to the car. And like,
And you're, yeah, we were still pretty much in the same spot.
yeah, maybe like a half a mile up or something like that, which was not an issue. Like, 'cause we were starving at that point, I remember.
Yeah. And that was another food poisoning day for me. I remember sprinting to a bathroom and after that traffic. But
I remember that previous night when, because you couldn't come out with us, you're like, "Dude, y'all go have fun. I am fucked up."
yeah, I so man, there was like a 3 hour period while you guys were gone that I was trying to rotate myself to be able to even grab a bottle of water that was over my left hand shoulder. And I literally couldn't do it. It was insane. Like yeah, that was, but either way, I love Mongolia. I would love to do it again. Maybe ride some horses out there. Well, the adventurous, they do the Mongol Derby, right? That would be sick. I don't know if you ever looked at that one, but
Yeah, yeah, the Mongol Derby's cool, man. It's like, a semi I think it's a semi-wild horse. I don't know how that works, um,
yeah, I'm not sure either.
but then you kind of, rear it, I guess you could say, and then take it across, and it's essentially a race, and you race these,
Yeah, yeah,
but you have to, like, it's a lot more qualifications, like, you have to
yeah.
actually, be
You
a
have to
horse,
prove.
like, equestrian and
Yeah, you have to prove your ability level. I forget their qualifications for it, but it looked pretty interesting. Yeah, shout out to adventurous for even having all these crazy things like I would love to do like the rickshaw run in the Himalaya that they do, or Sri Lanka or something like that. They put some really cool events together, and they definitely know how to organize. So yeah, I'm really happy that I stumbled across them after watching what was it? I was watching Ewan McGregor's Long Way Round, and I was like, I need to find something like this to go around the world. And yeah, luckily Adventurous exists, because we definitely would have got the Turkmenistan visa, and definitely wouldn't probably had the idea to get a Nissan Micra in the UK to make it viable, and then having all those resources of other people doing it and figuring it out just really made this possible, I think, for us.
no, 100%, and it was really a special experience and, probably one of the greatest experiences of my life, if not the greatest, and, yeah, we made it to Ulan-Ude. I mean, and it was just so surreal, like, we were there, we were up on the podium, we drove up, and
Yeah.
it was just one of those moments in my travel, experiences that was probably one of the greatest moments because we did it. We went through so much shit and,
Yep.
all the border crossings and the food poisoning. We both got food poisoning, like, multiple times, and
Yep.
it's just like everything that went on, and just all the money and, us running on fumes, honestly, just like the
Yeah.
cheap gas in Russia saved us there at the end. I mean, because we were running on
We
fumes
were,
and
we
then
were I had no money left. Like I literally had money for like really cheap meals and gas to get across at the end. And I think I actually end up having like a little bit of like 1,000 of like credit card debt on the way back. Like that's at the point that we were at. It was a big financial commitment, and we had, yeah, no, I agree. That was an accomplishment. Like nowadays travel can be so easy, and I feel like we chose a really difficult way to do things, but doing it in a very interesting and rewarding way. And I feel like that made me feel alive. And, we practically went completely around the world. We literally drove across the US, went all the way into Siberia and Russia, and then drove all the way back across Russia, which, total distance wise, we definitely could have circumnavigated the world. So it was just, yeah, I think it's one of those things that, you know, if, even if I'm having a bad day or something, sometimes I'll think about the adventures that we had there. And it's always funny think about the bad moments and during the time and how it turns into a good moment when you think back at it, type 2 fun or whatever it is. But yeah, even the drive across Russia, even there we was just trees, like just beautiful nature, not much else there though. That in of itself was really interesting. Then we all got to hang out in Moscow, Moskva at the end there, and that was a cool send off. And even that was a little stressful because I decided to get in a car accident. Like we're at the end of our adventure, we're like 20 minutes away from the airport, and I switched lanes, and the guy it was my fault, but guy hits me. And then we have to still get to the airport and get food and everything else to because you had your flight from Moscow. So yeah, even at the end, that was interesting.
Yeah, man, that was interesting. We got to go to a KHL game. We got to explore
Oh
Moscow.
yeah, KHL game, man.
Um,
Yeah, we got to do Red Square. That was fun. Too bad we couldn't do the Kremlin because it was the one day of the week for the inside tours. But I feel like we still got to experience it. That was pretty cool, and we got to do St. Basil's and all that cool stuff. So yeah, and then what we I think I had a couple days because you left a couple days before us, and then we ended up leaving a couple days after you because we went to St. Pete's and then left out of Helsinki because we had to meet with those people that we're giving our car away to do the rally the next year, which didn't happen, but not their fault. But yeah, man, I'm really happy I got to do with a friend like you, and that was pretty spectacular experience. Yeah, it's something I'll never forget, and it's one of the dearest memories I have in my life for sure.
Absolutely, I feel the same way, and it was great getting to experience that, and I would not take it back for anything, honestly, man. Um,
No, no, it's great.
uh, so later on, post rally, you did a lot of training for what would eventually lead to your career, your current career as a Zodiac expedition guide. Um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you go on these cruise ships on to more of the remote parts of the world. Talk about leading up to that. How do you prepare for something like that? How does someone prepare to go into a field like that if they're interested? And tell me about your first contract.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So I got really stuck in my head that I wanted to go to Antarctica, and once I started looking at the prices, I couldn't I couldn't rationalize paying somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000 per person to get down there. So I started researching. I found through a couple websites of just looking at these tours. I found that there was these expedition guides on these ships, and I had always thought about being a polar guide would be amazing, like crossing the Antarctic ice sheet or the Greenland ice sheet or something would just be you know tip top of the kind of adventures I want in my life, at least at that time. And so I started researching and pretty much annoying people within the industry. I found like a Facebook group and ended up talking to a couple people. So yeah, I end up I was given like a how to, like how what there's no college course or professional certificate program to become one. People come from a lot of different backgrounds. There's people that come from PhDs. I work with a lot of people that have, that are doctors, to people that are, come from just the guiding industry, being a kayak guide or scuba diver or something like that. And so I started doing these basic qualifications. There's like a power boating license, that some wilderness first aid courses. That's kind of like the basics. And then I end up getting my merchant mariner credentials and some other certificates just to make myself look better and more hireable. And and then I end up looking up. There's two cruise industry. They kind of monitor the cruise industry for polar regions. There's IACO in the Arctic, and then IATO in the Antarctic. So I end up pretty much finding the list of all the people that are part, or the companies that are part of these organizations, and I pretty much begged people for emails and emailed them directly, applied, and I was about to give up. I was, it was almost 2 years of me trying to get into the industry and me not having one Antarctic experience, because a lot of companies need on ice experience to be hired for Antarctica. 80% of the staff need to have Antarctic experience. So you can imagine how competitive to be in that 20% maximum. That doesn't mean they have 20% of the staff that haven't gone before. How competitive it can be to get in. So I ended up getting really lucky. After emailing every single company I could find that would go to these regions monthly, I ended up calling the company I actually work for now on their guest line, got the email for the head of the expeditions and sent an email. And I sent an email at the perfect time because they're about to commission a brand new ship. So they needed expedition guides. And I was kind of the person that they ended up taking a chance on, because I didn't have any industry experience, or I've never been on a cruise before. And so, yeah, they end up hiring me. I got sent to polar bear guard training in Washington, of all places. And it was pretty much a NRA rifle instructor course that was revised for polar bear guards. And so in my first season, I got sent to Malta to meet the ship. We were deadheading, so that means no guests on the ship. And so it was good. I'm so happy that I had that first month without guests or real operations, because it made me become a better Zodiac driver, and also really understand what the job entails. What's expected of me. If it's comes down to how to research before, because a lot of times we're in different places every single day. So understanding the bird colonies that maybe are there, or the geology of that area, or just how to conduct a interpretation for some of these places for 90-minute Zodiac cruises, or during a hike or anything like that. It was super informative. So we ended up going Malta, to Gibraltar, to Rotterdam, and then we end up going all the way up to Tromsø in the Arctic part of Norway. And then the real part, really, the real job began, being in Svalbard, and being able to witness. I mean, I didn't realize how lucky I was at the time, but my second time ever seeing a polar bear on this was on this cruise in the wild, and it was off of the ship in the ice. We put the ship into the ice, and for reference, this ship carries 250 guests, so it's not a very big ship, but we have we're an ice class ship, so we can go into sea ice a bit. So we had a polar bear approach us, and just being able to witness a polar bear good enough for my iPhone to be able to take a photo, a clear photo, was just absolutely wild. And then, yeah, that first contract really made me kind of fall in love with the Arctic a lot, and just the freedom, especially being as a bear guard, having to set up perimeters before guests get on and clear areas of polar bears, make sure there's nothing there. Um, there's you're out there, you're in the middle of the Arctic where there's no people at all, remotely close, and it really made me appreciate the job that I had. And but after that, after Svalbard season, ended up in Greenland, and during the same contract, and ended up, I got into it for Antarctica, but I fell in love with Greenland, and just the dramatic landscapes of the East Coast, the history with the dramatic landscapes in the South, with the Viking history there, and then the West Coast with just the Greenlandic culture just was just insane. And after that, I was kind of hooked.
That's awesome, man. That's an incredible experience, and I mean, it took you 2 years to get on, mostly due to COVID,
Yeah,
and then
a lot of it.
finding
Yeah,
a job without the experience in the industry, just that initial launch,
yeah,
was, you know, took a lot of time to get to. So that's
yeah,
awesome, man. And then so Greenland, you've explored up in the Arctic, near the North Pole, all that.
yep.
Have I wanted to ask, going to Antarctica and doing a contract there already, is it all that you expected it to be, or how do you feel about it?
I feel so. I actually just got back from Antarctica, so I did South Pacific contract mostly. So I did a lot of Papua New Guinea and yeah, just yeah, Micronesia, stuff like that, Easter Island, Pitcairn, stuff like that. But at the end of my contract, we head down the Chilean fjords and end up in Antarctica. So this is my third season. I'll be back there in less than a month. And yeah, I knew it was going to be special. I don't think there's any words that can truly describe the experience of being there. Even though you are visiting during the summertime, it's still very brutal. The prominence of the mountains coming from out from the ocean is something that blows Norway or anywhere else with deep fjord systems out of the water. And then just not seeing a lot of rock, and just these glaciated peaks everywhere. And then you add in the factors of, penguins, just hundreds or even thousands of penguins just porpoising through the water, or leopard seals hunting them. Just it's hard for me to even describe even to this day. I'm actually lucky enough that I'm going to be bringing my mom on this next contract so she can experience it. But it's really hard to put into words. It feels like a privilege to be out there, making money and being able to guide in these areas. You know, there's obviously a lot of risk when we're heading out there. Crevasses and everything. Have been sent to crevasse rescue training and all these other things just because of that. But it's an absolute privilege. And for me, I think my the one of the besides snowboarding, I think the one of the ultimate pieces for me is driving a Zodiac through ice. And I had a really good moment this contract just now, like less than a month ago, of just being I we the ship made an ice landing, and I was a safety Zodiac, and there was five of us, so a couple of us would kind of just go take off and do our own thing. And I remember I just parked next to an iceberg and just shut off the engine, and it was just placid still. And it was just one of those rare moments in Antarctica where you have sun, no wind, and just the most dramatic landscape in front of you, surrounded by ice. And it was just, yeah, it's really hard to articulate that without going there yourself and being able to experience that. I highly suggest anyone listening to, even if it's as a tourist, well, definitely as a tourist, just it's worth the money to get down there. It's nothing like if you've been to a glacier or Alaska or somewhere like that. It's not even in the same realm. I don't know how to describe it better than that.
That's an amazing experience, man, and a lot of people that's pretty out of the realm of possibility for some people, but I think if you do have that saved up and you do have the desire to travel to Antarctica and see that
Yeah,
vastness of glaciers and just that massive, massive piece of ice, like I don't know, like
yeah,
it's incredible to get to explore that. Or if someone wants to go to the South Pole, I think it is a worthwhile experience, especially if you have done a lot of traveling already and kind of looking for that
yeah,
next. I know I really want to go to Antarctica at one point in my life. Certainly, to say I went to all seven continents, that would be cool. I know you've already accomplished that for sure.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you need to. And for anyone that's listening that doesn't see a way to get there, I would highly suggest looking, if you're American at least, looking at U.S. Antarctic program. So McMurdo Station, and so you got McMurdo and Palmer, right, for the big ones, and then but they hire 1,000 people, and they need auxiliary staff to run the station. And that in itself is a great way to get on ice experience or just be able to get there. Um, it is very competitive. Me with not having that experience previously, I had applied for 4 years in a row without getting it, and then the fifth year I ended up getting it, but then COVID hit and they reduced the staff. But if you really have that as a goal, and maybe you don't have the financial means to really make that happen, you can also make money while going to McMurdo if you apply, keep applying, even if you apply for a janitorial role. I mean, there's PhDs that sometimes go down there under a custodian kind of contract just to be able to even get down there and absorb that. But it's also a great way to save money because just like me on the ship, there's not a lot of money to be spent down there, all for obvious reasons. So you get that experience that you would want with while being able to actually save a decent amount of money, and that's what a lot of people end up doing at down at the stations. They'll do a summer season and then end up traveling the when they get home.
yeah, that's great advice, and we'll put all these links below. Just send me those links in a text message, Matt, and we'll put
Yeah,
all
sure.
that in the description below to help people out. And uh, if you do want to apply, we'll give you those resources.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to swing it to South America or the South Pacific that you were just in. You said you were in Papua New Guinea, and I was following some of your stories, and you were like essentially going up, going up water, like close to a tribe. Talk about that. I don't know this details at all.
Yeah, yeah. So there's in West Papua, so Indonesia. There was a really great experience. It's in the region called Agates, and these tribes aren't really used to tourists until the last couple of years. But we had a really cool experience where we drove our Zodiacs up a river, and so they put this show on essentially with all their war canoes. And this tribe, only a generation or two ago, were headhunters. So some of the people that were actually on the it wasn't just this cultural show to show something from the last couple hundred years. Some of these people were actual headhunters at one point in their life, and yeah, they just put all that war paint on and canoed up this river, and it was dozens and dozens of boats just with this haunting war chant that they had. And I can't imagine being an adversary witnessing that because it would be very, very intimidating. But they ended up being, well, I'm still here, right? So they were very, very hospitable, and just it was amazing to see how they live and how they make use of the land, really, which I found very impressive. And the carvings that they can make, like the kayaks, I mean, the canoes are super ornate with carvings, and their war shields are just absolutely insane. Yeah, but then on Papua New Guinea side, there's a place called Septic River, and it had a um, not with the canoes, but had a similar experience. And then we went to there's a island off the coast of Papua New Guinea that's still part of Papua New Guinea, and next to Rabaul, the city or town. I don't know how you would classify it. It's like 90,000 people or something. But up in the hills from over there, they do these fire dancing rituals, which I think you might have seen one of those photos or the videos from it, where it's pretty much the youth. It's like a kind of an initiation, and it ends up. So we were there for maybe 4 or 5 hours, but they will keep going for days, and they cook a bunch of food, and they make it a huge event. But it's pretty much for the youth to initiate. And so they pretty much they build this huge fire, and they dress up in these really oversized masks that cover pretty much a third of their body. So it's covered with these really nice grass dresses, I guess. And what they have to do is they have to jump over the fire, but what ends up happening is they intentionally kick the fire, and it's almost it's like a masculine kind of who can endure more pain, well, because they're all barefoot, kind of kicking over the fire. And that had to be one of the cooler things, if not the coolest thing that I've seen, between the canoe in agates and then the fire dancing in outside Rabaul. Just really some crazy experiences out over there, culturally. There was a lot of cultural, definitely great nature experiences out there, especially with the snorkeling and scuba diving. Some of the healthiest coral reefs I've seen ever in my life, if not the most, probably the most, was in Indonesia in the Coral Triangle, on these trips. But yeah, that whole region was fantastic. And later on, doing a little bit of Micronesia, and then French Polynesia, Tahiti, that whole area, and being able to hike out over there, and then finally making it to Easter Island. And then the thing that was highest on my list was doing Pitcairn, because it's such a hard landing to make. And I definitely almost killed myself Zodiac driving in, because we had a really high swell. We had like a 5 meter swell, and we had to time it in to come into this really shallow bay. So I mean, really narrow bay. So you know, having about 8 seconds between swell and trying to time it to get into this harbor was definitely checked my ego of boat driving a little bit.
No, it takes those experiences to get better though, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, for sure.
those, like the tribes and stuff that I was like witnessing on your stories, I was like, wow, man, that's crazy. What you said there, what does their cuisine look like? Like, what is it? I mean, I imagine it's super meat heavy. I mean,
So I can tell you at least a little bit. So in a lot of these places, they use palm as a starch. So that actually plays a heavy role in their diet. Um, so they what they do is you pretty much take an axe. It's a seiko palm, and you take an axe and you pretty much chop it down a bit, and then I don't think it's soaked in water, but it's you create a pulp, and that's one of the staples of that area is obviously fishing within those communities, especially we're on a ship. Obviously, a lot of these communities are going to have a decent fishing culture. Um, but it was interesting. I've never seen an area use Seiko palm as one of the staple foods. So I guess that was one of the bigger takeaways for me, especially for the rural communities versus the cities. Obviously, any city in the world, you can get your normal kind of at least food. But yeah, seeing Seiko palm as a starch would probably be my highlight of weird and interesting food for that area.
Okay, yeah, something caloric dense and
Yeah,
easy to sustain you and your community.
yeah,
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and being close to the coast is like seafood heavy, a lot of fishing villages and stuff like
yeah,
that.
yeah. Definitely our agricultural communities there too, of course. But that those regions, like especially Papua New Guinea, for I know not necessarily a food part, well, partially, but a big part of their economy is actually creating palm oil. So that's something that I definitely learned a decent amount about that I wasn't aware of. Because palm oil, if you look at most of our food, there's palm oil in almost everything. And, it's economically viable, but you also, not to go too heavy on this, but, there is a lot of deforestation happening to create these plantations. So it's definitely um, something that I found interesting from the area. Not really. This was my first experience guiding in South Pacific, so this was more of a learning contract for me on that aspect. But really, I think I know you're conscious of the food that you put in your body, and it was definitely something that made me think a little bit harder about what kind of products that I ingest or purchase. But yeah, just I thought that was an interesting tidbit of something I learned out there.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's synonymous with Southeast Asia. A lot of palm oil,
Yeah,
those kind of plantations and stuff in Malaysia and stuff like
yeah,
and countries like that. So that definitely makes a lot of sense, and it's very interesting, man, to see the different ways of life. People are a product of their environment, so
yeah,
whatever way they can make it, they're gonna make it. Like if since modern technologies came around, some of these tribes are like, well, or not even the tribes are like people around that area are, what can we do to make money to get other items to make our life easier, and
yeah. And
it
I
speaks
mean,
on that.
that's what we have to do. Yeah, and it's there's not, it was unfortunate to see the some of the poverty that is there in these areas, and even going to Guam, it felt weird. And that's a U.S. territory. It's I wouldn't say it's third world, but it's definitely it definitely doesn't feel like the states. I will say that.
Yeah, just a totally different environment, and being way out in the Pacific like that, you're definitely even Hawaii, like unless you're in Honolulu or something like that. I mean, it's nothing like a third world country, but it's still vastly different to the lower 48, and that whole in our whole system here.
No, I would agree. I still have to visit Hawaii, by the way. Still haven't been there.
Really? That's crazy.
That's my last state. I can't drive there. I can't drive there. Still haven't been there.
No, you're gonna get there soon enough, and you'll love it, man. I spent a couple weeks there. I went to Kauai, Maui,
Yeah.
and Oahu.
Yeah, that especially Kauai and the Big Islands. definitely want to see some volcanic action out there. But Kauai, I mean, I'm sure that was a highlight for you.
Yeah, my ex-girlfriend and I actually were doing this hike called the Kalepa Ridge Trail.
Yeah,
And you hike out and you get this badass view of the uh, Napoli coast. And
yeah,
like,
yeah. That's the
and
famous point there, right?
yeah, it's a very crazy dramatic coastline. And so we were coming back, and there was this 10-foot fence right beside us to protect vegetation from the wild boars.
Oh
And
wow. Okay.
we were the only ones on the trail. It was a really like steep, rugged trail, like hardly a trail. And
Hmm.
close to the public at the time, we were just like, "This is supposed to be the trail, all right." So we ended up going down there, and we ended up running into a wild boar on the trail, and we had to like jump over this 10-foot fence. Uh, and yeah, I wasn't fighting that thing,
Yeah,
and
hell no.
it was like 20 yards from us, dude. And we ended up climbing over this fence super fast and having to like essentially bushwhack our way up to the car parking lot, like a mile and a half.
Oh god. Just to avoid the wild boar too. That's insane.
Yeah, I wasn't taking any chances on that.
No, I don't blame you. I mean, people die doing that, and you know, why take that chance? You know, like if I'm gonna go out, it's not gonna be because of wild boar. You know,
No, absolutely not, man. I picked up a stick and I was like, "Fuck!" I used this stick and I was like, "Fuck this stick. We're climbing the fence."
unacceptable. Yeah.
No, but that's awesome, man. So you're about to do another contract. You're currently in Stockholm, Sweden, right now. Um,
Yeah.
if you could pick a country to put down roots, do you think it would be Sweden, or where do you think it would be?
So yeah, I see myself here for the foreseeable future. Yeah, I've been dating this wonderful woman, Erica, here, and the more time I spend here, the more I enjoy it. And you know, I have more experience in Norway and Iceland and Denmark for Scandinavian culture, but between I'm 33, getting a little older. I still love traveling, but I am slowing down a little bit, even though it probably doesn't sound like it. Um, but yeah, no, just between potentially raising a family, and then just there's more a community based society in Sweden and Scandinavia as a whole, and I really do like that. And the infrastructure is great here, and yeah, I can 100% see myself here for the future. To be honest, I'm doing this Antarctic contract coming up, so I'll be gone for about 3 months. I'll be flying into Argentina and then doing trips to the Antarctic Peninsula and then South Georgia, and then the Falklands also on this contract, which Falklands are really special. And yeah, South Georgia will be amazing, of course. And yeah, after that, I think I'm actually going to skip out on my Arctic contract. To be honest with you, I got a job lined up for the summertime to do be a kayak guide out in Stockholm, doing kind of a city tour kayaks, and then doing there's thousands of islands right off the coast of Stockholm here, part of the Stockholm archipelago. So I'll be doing a lot of kayak guiding out there, and yeah, it's as much as I love my job, it's gonna be really nice to have a weekend off, because there's no such things as days off on the ship. So yeah, no, it's exciting times. Things are changing, and you know, it's definitely becoming more of a balance between these crazy travels and living a meaningful life at home also.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You got to find that balance in life and find
Yeah.
somewhere to be that you really love and you're passionate about. And you've had a lot of time to search the world and figure out kind of where you want to be. And
Yeah,
Sounds like an
exactly.
exciting adventure, man. You got that Antarctic trip, the contract coming up, and you said
Yeah.
you mentioned Suzanne, your mom, is gonna be able to come with you on that one.
Yeah, I'm super excited about. So I'm super happy. I'm very lucky to work for the company I work for, and they pretty much allow me to have someone on board for free as long they don't pay for airfare, but I can have my mom on for free. So my mom hasn't been able to travel as much as she's wanted to for her life. And we got to go to, I took her to UK last year, and that was a lot of fun. Um, but yeah, I think this is gonna blow her mind. She's never even seen a glacier before, so to be able to go down to Antarctica and see penguins, I think it's gonna absolutely blow her mind. And yeah, like I said, super happy and excited that I work for a company that allows for this to happen. And yeah, I definitely plan on working for them in the future. Probably doing Antarctic seasons primarily. As much as I love Greenland, it is unfortunately in the middle of the summer in the northern hemisphere, and I would like to do other things. But yeah, that's kind of the plan moving forward, and really, I can't even describe how excited I am that my mom's gonna be able to finally come on the ship and be able to experience this with me.
No, that's an amazing ability to have the resources and ability to have someone on board and take your mom with you and let her experience Antarctica and somewhere crazy like that. And like you said, she hasn't done much travel, and then that's like 0 to 100, right to Antarctica. Like getting to see
Yeah, yeah,
glaciers and penguins and all that it
yeah,
has to offer. And
yeah. I mean, she's
yeah,
never
ship
been
life
to
as
Asia,
well.
or yeah. I mean, she hasn't been to Asia. She hasn't been to South America. She's not been to Africa, but she's she's gonna go to Antarctica. So yeah, it's good. I think it's gonna be a little bit of a shock for her, but it's definitely. I don't think there's a lot of people that have gone from such little travel to down to Antarctica. So yeah, it will be. It's gonna be very rewarding for me because I'm gonna see that passion and wonder that I had my first season through her, and her excitement's gonna kind of invigorate me in really not being jaded and appreciate you know what I get to see and take for granted sometimes.
Oh, entirely. And you get to have a family member and your mom, in particular.
Yeah,
So, I mean, that's great, man. You got the world, the world's your oyster. You got unlimited potential. You're doing what you want to do. I'm super excited for you, man, and it's really exciting to see you follow your passion and then do what you said you were going to do.
yeah. It's well, thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. And not for nothing, you're doing a lot over there too, and it's nice to see your progress, between personal life and you know, business wise. Also, it's we're getting older and more responsible. I hate it, but I love it.
No, yeah, it's great. Like I didn't think the 30s would be this good, like we're both 33 and I think it's
Yeah,
it's it's
for real.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's yeah, I feel like right. I'm sure you feel the same way. But yeah, right now, this is some of the best times of my life right now. Sometimes it's nice to sit back and actually appreciate it instead of it's hard not to look forward all the time, but sometimes you have to sit back and just kind of appreciate moments you have, and the people that you're surrounded by, or the things you're seeing, or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's easy to get caught up in thinking about the future too much, but all we have is these moments, man, and you just got to
Yeah,
create the best moments you can and put your best foot forward and be the best person you can for your community.
yeah, for sure. It's easy to forget that time that exists is the here and now, right? So be the best version of yourself.
100%. Obviously, we do have to plan for the future, but living in the moment is so overlooked a lot of times, and uh, it's definitely something you have to do.
100%.
Well, we're gonna wrap up soon, but lastly, I wanted to ask you if you could leave the listeners with any advice, travel or in general, what would that be?
I would say just get out there. Um, get out of your comfort zone. Um, travel. I'm sorry to let you guys know it's not going to Cancun. Um, just just get out there. Take a random job. Meet people. If you feel stuck in an area where you don't feel like you have the same values as your community, move. Go somewhere else, even if you don't have any money. Look at me and Ryan. We both had nothing money wise and went to Yellowstone and ended up meeting fascinating people who inspired us, and we're either doing great things or we're going to do great things. That job led me to ski seasons out west where I met even more amazing people. And yeah, you need to surround yourself with people that are either like-minded or can inspire you. So put yourself in those kinds of places where you feel like you could thrive. Nothing wrong with my community back home, but it wasn't conducive to who I wanted to be as a person. So I would suggest putting yourself in the right predicament in general.
Solid advice. Very solid advice, man.
Yeah, we both did it, man.
Absolutely, and we both enjoy our lives, man, and I
Yeah,
mean,
we
it's
do.
taken a lot of hard work, and but anyone can do it, and that's what I wanna stress to people. Anyone can do it. We're like you said, we came from nothing. We money-wise, we didn't have much, and we just made it happen, through sheer will.
Yeah, that's all you gotta do is keep pushing.
Alright, man. I appreciate you coming on, Matt. It was really great to talk to you, and I'm sure I'll talk to you soon, and, I'll be, watching your stories closely.
Yeah, Ryan. Thanks for having me on, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to listening to the podcast that you're putting together. It's really, really proud of you and happy that you're doing something you love. So,
Awesome, man. Yeah, thank you again.
see you, Ryan.
Folks, always remember the world is your oyster. That's a wrap on this episode of People, Places, and Things. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Whether you're dreaming of your next adventure or just love hearing stories from across the globe, we hope we inspired a bit of wanderlust in you today. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with fellow travelers. Until next time, keep exploring, keep dreaming, keep discovering new people, places, and things.